busy, sweating because it's summer, and yeah,
Already
tired.
summer?
It feels like it, yeah. It's hot. Mad Hatter forgetting to turn on his mic again.
He's probably fixing up his crispy mic so that he sounds good for you, right?
What time is it for you?
For me, it's 11 p.m. right now.
Yeah, me too.
So
let me just. Can you hear me beautifully?
perfect.
Nice.
I mean, also the audience, you can just say how you can hear, like how we sound to you. Just give us a quick update. Beautifully.
Is the stage questions the channel
Yes.
where everybody talks? Okay.
Yeah, usually.
Am I allowed to post images there? I think so, right? Or not?
I mean, depends on the mood of Mad Hatter, but I'll allow it. Okay.
Nice.
Shak sounds beautiful, and I don't. Smiley girl. Got the hint. Okay, that's fine. So,
you guys have been doing really well. It's worth mentioning before we start. You guys have grown since the first time we did an AMA here. You guys have gotten massive. Well done to you guys.
Thank you very much.
I see a lot of people attending your AMAs.
I mean that's the goal, right? But it's nice. It's nice that you acknowledge it and see the hard work also we're putting in. And but you know what? I'm not sure if you remember, but the first time we had you guys on, I wasn't here. I was on vacation, so I missed the first time that we spoke.
It was a shit show. No, it was a good AMA. It was the shit show.
So okay, I was not there, and it was a shit show.
Yeah,
that kind of makes sense. Why?
I have had shit show AMAs where I'm being interviewed by somebody who's got the charisma of a potato, and then it's just me talking for an hour, wishing somebody would speak up other than me. But I've never had that problem here.
I mean, isn't that kind of awkward?
Today's the day.
Yeah, today's the day. Nobody's gonna say a word. It's funny how things go around. First, you interview me, then I interview you, and now we're back to you guys interviewing me.
It's an exciting time.
The psych. Hey, there we go. That's a good mic.
You happy with the sound? This one's just for you.
Yes.
Ay. So, gentlemen, do we want to get started? You still want to just chat around?
I'm easy.
We can get started.
Yeah. Cool. Perfect. Let me just see. Is Gregbot in here? Oh yeah, he is. Alrighty. Hello, guys. Thank you all for coming. Thanks, Shak, for coming. Welcome to The Pillars. We are a community-led space aimed at supporting protocols and educating our investors through intelligent, meaningful conversation. Here we ask the tough questions you all want answered. And now, as already mentioned, let me introduce to you Shak from Alchemy Protocol. He is a returner of the space. We already had you guys on. It's been already a couple of months back, I believe, like 6 months, half a year already, something like that.
Yeah.
A lot has changed. And you are here to introduce us to what you have been building in the last couple of months. We're very excited. As of, I believe we are the first ones you are to speak about with about your changes. And also, as you can see from the title of the event, we have $500 in giveaways happening, which are going to be 4 NFTs to the Alchemy Protocol. How exactly that works, I'm going to let you guys talk about. But yeah, I hope everyone enjoys. Please use the Stage Questions channel to ask questions if you have any. and I'm gonna dip now. Enjoy.
Thank you very much, David. Shak, how you doing, my man?
I'm good, man. It's good to be back. It's always fun to be here. Thank you for
It's
having
good.
me.
Pleasure. It's good to have you back, dude.
Are you going to roast me tonight?
I am going to roast you tonight. I have a ton of things that I want to dig into and deep dive into. I guess first things first, there might be some people in here who haven't heard about the Alchemy Protocol. So can you give a bit of a brief overview as to what you guys are? And I assume there's going to be slight differences to this intro than the last time we heard you in here.
Sure. This is going to be a much simpler intro. We are a software-first project. Our concerns are cross-chain communication, and we want to facilitate people's interactions within crypto and break down the barriers between different chains, right? So we have a cross-chain swap that's coming out very soon. We have a cross-chain launchpad, which we're launching next. And that is a unique product. Nobody else has something that works the way our launchpad will work. And the features can be seen in our pre-sale page. And we're going to be adding an on and off ramp to the swap as well. And the mission statement behind what we're doing, because I've been working on the pitch deck, right? And we had to think, like, what is it that we're doing? We want to make the only dApp that you will ever need to bookmark to interact with DeFi. So
Right.
whether it's buying NFTs, you won't have to bridge your money, or you won't be tied down to any particular coin to buy NFTs. Our aggregator will let you pay in whatever you want, and that's the simple version of it.
Good stuff. Why the change? Last time we spoke, there were a ton of other things that you guys were doing, and you guys have now decided to kind of deviate from that path and move into a slightly new direction. What prompted that from your end?
So the only thing that we've changed is the reward side of the protocol. The software, the utility, that hasn't changed at all. I was wasting a lot of time trying to explain the tokenomics of our token, how the price would be supported, how the rewards would be paid back to people through the token. And keep in mind, when I designed that setup, it was the bull run. People were throwing money left and right, and it made sense to taper people's excitement with an element. With a token.
Right.
And there was that element of uncertainty, right? Whenever you have a token, it can pump and it can dump. And we had taken measures for if it were to dump. And it just got to a point where, why are we even doing this? Why are we fucking around with a token when we are not a token project? And I've been trying to fight that message. We're not a token project. It's a software project. But I ended up talking more about the reward protocol more than the software. And that was it's not what we want. So we just changed it, and it's very simple now. And it's even more appealing, where you buy an NFT, we will keep sending you rewards until you make 3x of the money that you spent on the NFT. The NFTs are called elements, and we dropped the price massively. The elements used to cost $150. Now you can get one as cheap as $10, and the most expensive one is $50. But the point is simplicity. I can explain this in 2 minutes, how you can make money with this, and then I can spend the rest of the time talking about what we're doing. So
go for it.
Well, that's all. I've explained how the rewards work. Right.
I mean, I like the simplicity of it, and I like that you guys are moving in that direction. It says something when you're saying you spend most of the time kind of talking about maybe the token and the rewards rather than the software that is what is underpinning what you guys have created and always was underpinning it, right?
Yes.
You are making bold claims, though, in terms of wanting to be the go-to place, wanting to be the one that is the only one you bookmark. A lot of people make those kind of claims. what do you believe you guys are going to be able to do differently outside of that simplicity that current places are not doing, current protocols, projects, you name it, and not doing?
I don't know of many projects that aim to be a sort of catch-all, right? Let's talk about what people do when they're in DeFi.
Mhm.
They either want to buy NFTs or trade in NFTs. They want to trade tokens, or they want to bridge some stable coin from one chain to another.
Mhm.
There are other things, right? There are bots. We're not doing trading bots as a service, just to be clear.
Right.
We looked into that. It's too much of a shit show, so we're not doing bots. We might at some point partner with someone who does bots, but that's not the thing we're doing. But using an on-ramp to buy crypto with fiat, there's so many different platforms where you can do it. Now, here's the thing, right? If you want to trade a token on the Binance Smart Chain, you will usually go to PancakeSwap. If you want to use Polygon, you go to QuickSwap, so on and so forth. And if you want to move from one chain to another, you have your pick of bridges.
Mhm.
What we are doing is we're aggregating all of these things, and through our swap, you are technically still using those services, but you're doing it through us. And I will show this later tonight.
Right.
We've reached a point where going through our swap will either get you the same price as you would on some random swap, or a better price for your transaction, right?
Then going direct?
Yes. Now,
Right.
here's one of the things that because I was wasting my time talking about the token and the reward model over 18 months, one thing I was never able to clarify is, yes, it's a cross-chain swap, but because it's such a complex thing to bridge funds and then move from one DEX to another, you usually need to interact with 3 different apps to move from one chain to the next, right? So because it's such a complicated thing, most people tend to bury themselves on one chain, and that's where they stay. We do want to eventually, we hope that with our swap, people will eventually just move along, not really caring which chain they're on, and just focus on chasing the opportunities as they come, right? Not having to worry about bridging. But let's forget that for a moment. The swap is also an aggregator for same chain transactions, right? If you have BUSD on Binance and you want to buy another token that is on the Binance Smart Chain, of course you can do that with our swap too. And this is where I wasn't really expecting we could do this, right? But it turns out we could. There are a lot of projects that have their own DEX, and they will list their project, their token on their own DEX, right? Now, if it's allowed, I'm going to share a few screenshots on the stage questions. So many people in this Discord are familiar with Switch, right? I have a good relationship with some of the people in the team. And, they're quite a large project and they have their own DEX, right? And it's on the Binance Smart Chain. So they are not a cross-chain swap, right? It's a DEX, and it's a DEX on one chain. People there who want to buy Switch can only do so using BNB, right? Or BUSD or some other token on that chain. So here's what I'm going to show you now. Behold. This might not seem exciting to you guys. I would love it if you could make a big deal out of this. This was hard work. So,
are you sharing? Okay, there we go. Perfect.
First image. I'm going to draw your attention to what's happening here.
Please do.
And by the way, this was done so you can see that the screen, there's 2 tabs next to each other. These quotations were given at the same exact time, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
if anybody
we
wonders
have-
what Shaq's talking about, by the way, it's in the stage questions. If you just jump in, take a look in there, you'll see the two images side by side.
right.
Sorry, dude, go.
No, thanks. So we start off very simple. BUSD, stablecoin. If you put in $100 of BUSD on the Switch DEX, you get 23,000 something Switch tokens.
Mm-hmm.
Doing it from our side gets you 23,157 Switch tokens. So you get a little bit more going through
Right.
us, right? Now this, and people have asked me, how are you going to market your swap? There are other cross-chain swaps. Well, here's the difference. We don't just query aggregators like 1inch to get prices. We connect directly to these dexes. So this is how we're able to get a good price for the stablecoin, and then we can send that over to the Switch DEX to perform the swap. So here, literally nobody's losing; everybody's gaining.
Right.
We are gaining the fees from our end. Switch receives more money on their end, and the user gets more Switch token. Do you see what I mean?
I do. And you mentioned, I'm going to interject for a second because you mentioned, people asking how you're going to market this. In terms of what you're explaining to me, obviously it looks fantastic. And the fact that you can be cheaper through you than direct is crazy in any case, right? And people are going to obviously want to get the best bang for their buck. Is there going to be, or are there going to be visuals on this particular DApp that you guys are going to show where you're cheaper and for which tokens you're cheaper at any given time, so that it's a really easy look for someone to jump on and say, okay, I should go through you guys for that particular token, for example, and kind of encourage people to continue to use you guys through that method?
I think getting into a price war, right, is never a great idea.
Right.
The argument here, so the point I want to make with this is that if you want to use this DEX, or if you want to buy this particular token on this DEX, you should do it on our end, because you don't lose anything by. And I'll post the next image just to clarify. So Switch is paired with BNB directly, right? So here, you get the same exact price because you can only get the best price on Switch. So the point here is that either we will match the same price that you get on the DEX directly, right? Or you'll get more value for money. It's not about being cheaper. It's just that you get more value for money. Your $100, you end up wasting less of it on fees and whatnot through us than directly on a DEX, right? Now, this is all I'm showing you now is same chain transactions, right? I haven't even shown you a cross chain. Now, this doesn't just apply, by the way, to Switch, right? Many people here might also know of Sphere. They have their own DEX. It's called the fuck is it called? Dystopia, right?
Yep.
It's on Polygon. Well, same thing. Here we're looking at the price on Polygon for USDC from $100 of USDC to their token dist.
642 difference, right? 642 ish, give or take.
It's a slight improvement from our side, right?
Yeah.
It's never going to be massive amounts, but again, the point is why would we be the only DApp that anyone needs to bookmark? Because either you're getting the same price or you're going to get something a bit better. Now here, this I wasn't expecting this, right? But when we checked, so Sphere, the token, is paired with a token called USD Plus, and that's the only way you can buy it on their DEX directly. Now, here on our swap, you can choose to use a more common stablecoin like USDC, and you get more Sphere.
Right. And okay,
And
so I
none of
made
this
a
is
question.
cross-chain. None of this is cross-chain. Let me
No.
just clarify. I haven't shown that yet.
Right. And there is already a question about the cross chain, which I'll ask as we get to it. So, are you going directly to these guys to say, "Here, listen, we've got this. We're able to create a better price." Do you guys want to start looking at us? Do you want to start paying attention to what we're doing, and perhaps we can get in a room and discuss? Because I can imagine this is something that anybody with a token by which this is something that you can offer is going to be something that they're interested in.
We have we have partnerships with some projects. Thorfi is one of the biggest right now.
Mm-hmm.
We have a partnership with Com. Since I started this journey, a lot of the projects we partnered with have managed to manage themselves into the ground, right? So
Right.
I'm going to have to go out and do more partnerships. But the point is, we have fees here, right? And I found this to be very easy. When I would approach a project and I'd say, we're going to have a cross-chain swap. We're going to make it very easy for people to buy your token from any chain, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we will waive our fees for people to buy your token if you help us spread word about the project. And most people agreed, right? Because there's no requirement from them. All they need to do is point people in the direction of our swap. And reception has been quite good. Now,
Right.
bear in mind, the last time I did this was about 6-7 months ago. I didn't have the swap. I couldn't show it to them. So I only approached a few projects, and most of them said yes, and I left it at that. Now that the swap is about to come out in, it's very realistic that it might be out in about a week, right?
Oh, as soon as that.
In beta, yeah.
Right. Okay.
And so once I have it live, I can now go back and approach other projects to help spread word about it, and everyone benefits, right?
Right. So I'll kind of circle
point.
back to that. The point I made and you raised in terms of what, how people asking you how you're going to market it, and given that you said you don't want to get into a kind of a bidding war, as it were, I guess most people, especially the ones that are from your community, are going to have in their minds, well, how are you going to really drive interest? Because I can see why it would drive interest once it's been used. I guess the key question is, how are you going to get the users to the door? How do you bring the horse to water, as it were?
Like I said, I will give a perfect example. The partnership we have with Thorfi means that the moment we put this live, there is an incentive for them, their community, their leadership, their team, to point people in the direction of our swap, because the Thor team gets, again, in the example of $100 that I have screenshotted here, going through whatever the normal DEX is, that gets better value for money going through our swap. They can do so cross-chain. They can use any token they have on any chain. So It's not so much that I have to go after individuals to use our swap. The approach, one of the approaches we're taking is, and this is going to be the main one, by the way, is I want to partner with communities so that the communities themselves market to their members. So it's more efficient and it's more collaborative. And that is very important to me. I think by having a system where everybody benefits, growth is more assured than having a situation where, we're asking for favors or we're trying to incentivize people,
right?
Privately. It's not about that.
Right, I agree. So I guess it will be a slightly slower process than somebody who might attack all this with some aggressive marketing, but slower doesn't mean bad. Slow, steady, organic.
What is aggressive marketing?
Good question. I suppose some people in this space, typically, we are conditioned to see the same thing rehashed over and over again, right? So we're conditioned to see protocols be sent out to 1,000 spaces in the space of a day to speak to as many people as they can for as long as they can. and we're led to believe that that's going to be the manner with which you're going to bring in the most investors. And I think, typically we find that isn't the case. Then someone might say, well, are you going to take ads out somewhere? Are you going to be kind of employing people to go into these spaces and actively talk about you? So when I say it will be slower, I don't mean slow. I just mean against the traditional norm. To me, that's a stronger approach in any case, because slow, steady, organic growth is the best growth. Because if you're relying on word of mouth and you're growing, chances are that word of mouth is positive, right? So I guess what you're aiming to do here is just say, well, this works. This is what we're able to do. We're going to give it to a community to use, and you can come back and tell us if it's been any good. Or inevitably, when people say, yes, it's been great, you can run with that, right?
I will give this example. When a token launches, they will usually, people will say, where do I buy this? And people will usually link Pancake Swap, Quick Swap, whatever swap. By connecting with other teams, they will themselves link to our website for people to buy. So now you have a community of maybe a few thousand people, and whenever they want to buy that one token, they will go to our swap. And while there, they will be exposed to the fact that, hold on a minute, I can buy other tokens, and I can do so cross-chain. And you're right. We will probably look towards doing a better job at informing people that they're getting better value through us than from, one of the more traditional dexes.
Right.
But this again, it takes nothing from PancakeSwap. PancakeSwap makes their fees. We make their fees, the user and the community. It's just about efficient routing, right? Because the blockchain is messy. Sometimes it isn't very efficient. And so what happens is you might need to break up a transaction. I'm not the best person to explain the technicality of this, but sometimes if you break up the transaction, you end up with more money on the destination, having lost less of it along the way. And that's how this is working, right? Now, I just wanted to show the final image that I wanted to show.
Please do.
Which is now going back to the Switch example, where we put in $100. We were doing that on the same chain, right? Now, I show an image of, and I hope this is correct. Yes. So this is now $100 on Avalanche USDT, which is a stable coin. So that's $100. Right. You're getting Switch. And again, you're still getting more Switch. And the Switch people are getting more of that $100 than they were before.
Yes.
Okay, wait 1 second.
How many chains do you support?
Now in testing, I believe it's 6, but we're holding back 2 of them that we will post maybe a few weeks after we go live. Ethereum is it's expensive. It's expensive to deploy contracts on Ethereum. God damn it! So we're not starting with that, but we're fully aware it has to happen soon. We've already set everything up for that, so it works internally. It's just, man, fuck those fees.
Right. Yeah, it's ridiculous, right? Just while you're pulling that last image, you're trying to find that last image. You said you had one more, right?
Moss, if you want to send it to me again, because I don't know which particular image you mean. Yeah, go ahead.
It's nice to see Moss allowed out of the basement. I remember last time you and I spoke, you were telling me that he is a basement dweller and is only really allowed to come out for food, and that's every other day or so.
Moss is our lead dev, and he's let me just talk about him for a moment, if you don't mind. I have spoken to a lot of project leads.
He also can't spell, by the way, just so you know. So if he's the one writing the white paper, you might want to double check it.
No, that's me. And I was updating it in a rush, damn it. But yes, the Git book has been updated. Again, I'll have to fine tune it. But he wanted me to show this, right? There is, so on the right there, I just posted another image. On the right, you see all the quotes, all the places we're getting a quote from,
Right.
both on the source chain. So the source chain would be from, and that's the Binance Smart Chain. And the destination is where it's landing. So that's Polygon. Now, the task for us is there are many more DEXs that we still have to add, right? And even if those DEXs have cross-chain functionality, the user still benefits by us adding them to our swap, because ultimately we just want to provide the best, fastest, and cheapest destination direction for a person to perform the transaction. And
Right.
we're not really competing with anyone. That's the beauty of this. We're not somebody trying to compete with PancakeSwap on Binance. That's not what we're doing. Or somebody competing with QuickSwap on Polygon. We are just there to facilitate for everybody to work together to the benefit of both those communities and the user.
Right. And why do you think no one's done it before?
Oh, no. So I know there are other cross-chain swaps, but it doesn't seem like anyone else has put in a lot of focus on these smaller community-driven DEXs, right? And to be fair, we have come from this space in DeFi, right? A lot of these big DEXs are backed by VCs. They're massive projects. And it's simply just not appealing for them to go and fish for these smaller communities. They don't care, right? They're too big. They don't care. We do mixed DEXs, right? Nobody else is doing that. There are other cross-chain platforms that have other unique selling points. And I would like to bring up one of them in particular, because my community, people have brought this up, right? So there are a couple of cross-chain projects that are coming out. I don't know if they're live yet. And their selling point is that they are super, super fast, like instant transaction. Now, people need to understand this. We are we are querying multiple bridges here to get the quickest and the best price to swap from one chain to another. There is a process to this, which involves validation through certain. This is how blockchain works, right?
Are you going to name names, by the way, before we continue on this? I haven't heard you name the protocol yet. You're being very diplomatic, so I'm going to squeeze a tiny bit and say, have you got a name for me?
It's not that I'm being coy. There's so many, and they all sound the same, that I don't want to be inaccurate more than the fact that I'm being polite. I just, off the top of my head, I don't have an exact name that I can for certainty say this is the one. But people know who they are, maybe.
Sure.
When there's a cross-chain transaction, let's say you want to move USDC from Polygon to whatever, to Binance Smart Chain. So you make the request, and then the transaction needs to be validated, right? Now, this is how blockchain works. There are multiple nodes. They review all the transactions that have happened, and they all have to match up for it to be validated, right? This is a process that takes time. This is a security measure which makes crypto what it is. Internally, we also have found a way to perform a cross-chain swap while bypassing this security measure. And sure, the transaction is instant, but man, that is risky. That is very risky. And we made the choice to not take that shortcut, because this is a shortcut that only the user will end up paying for when it goes wrong. Because if you're not waiting for a block to be valid, several blocks to be validated, then the transaction might be front run. You might lose your money somewhere in the ether. Somebody can nick it, and then there's no way to find out where things went wrong. It's not the right way to do things, but it's a good selling point. I understand it's a good selling point. Some of our members have said, why are you guys not focusing on speed? Speed is determined by the blockchain, and it's a parameter that is related to security, and it just doesn't make sense for us to bypass that.
One of you mentioned security. One of the questions that people are going to have is what is your security like? Where perhaps is your biggest security flaw, and what are you guys doing actively to try and really mitigate against that particular issue happening?
That's a perfectly fair question, right? Bridges have had the most amount of exploits in the space than anything else. But then people don't follow up on the news. First of all, most of these bridge hacks are either related to someone finding a vulnerability, they take the money, they keep a bug bounty for themselves and send back the rest, or it is usually compensated by the bridge, right? These are not children playing in a basement. These are massive companies. They have a lot of money.
Right.
And this is the main thing. When you think of a bank, right, and they have a vault made of metal and it's very hard to break into, they still account for the fact that somebody might still get in and take the money, right? So they don't keep all the money that they have access to in one location. They always put out, they always expose just as much money as they are happy to replace if it gets stolen. That is the approach that we are taking with our own bridge. But it is important to clarify that we are querying all the bridges, or the intention is eventually to get to all of them, but we are not responsible for what happens on other bridges, and neither will the user, right? The user isn't going to have his money sitting on a bridge for hours or days, right? The people who lose money when a bridge gets hacked are the people providing liquidity to that bridge, not some random user using it. And because of the nature of what we're doing, which is a swap, the only time your money will touch the bridge is in that, a couple of minutes or a few seconds where the money is swapping from one chain to another.
Right.
So risk is minimal. But there are other factors, such as exact amount transactions. Li-Fi, which is a competitor of ours, had some of their members, some of the people who had interacted with Li-Fi in total lost about $500,000 of their own money. This is from their own wallets was stolen, because at the time there was this idea of, I'm interacting with a contract, I will give open approval for any amount, unlimited amount rather, and so that exposed people's wallets to a vulnerability that Li-Fi had. So when we heard about that, we made sure that if you ever interact with our contracts, you will only approve the amount of money that you want to transact in that at any given moment.
Right. Is that and that's a forced feature? It's only ever going to allow you to approve that?
No, I mean, if you are optimistic, you can sure give permanent approvals, but the pre-selected option is the exact match transaction.
Right. Okay, fine. So it'd be, I think, okay. So it'd be pre-selected. Fine. I guess you're going to have a challenge though with some of these protocols. I mean, you've mentioned, you have these protocols, especially ones with tokens, and they just can't seem to get the acts together. They seem to want to do this internally. You guys can better their prices. How do you get around what might be an ego issue with some of these people, or the lack of want to initially listen? Because I can imagine some of these guys are going to be a little bit hard-headed, and it's going to take some perseverance. Even though you might be partnered with someone who's showcasing this already, it's going to take some perseverance on your end, right?
The nice thing about this, we don't need anyone's permission or blessing to aggregate, right, information from whatever decks they've put out. If they want to work with us and perhaps integrate the cross-chain functionality directly on their decks, we can talk about it. We can talk about working together in that way. But from a user's perspective, they can just go to our swap and get the same functionality directly with us. Nobody can argue that this hurts anyone, right? Using our
Right.
swap. It doesn't take away from the fees that these decks collect or the attention that the tokens will have. The only difference is, and this would be stupid to turn down, is that when we partner with projects, we waive our own fees for people to buy their tokens. So we're incentivizing people even more to come in from other chains or directly to buy their shit. So if they say no, we don't want to work with you, well, then you're an idiot. Well, there's no argument. That's the only explanation. You're a slave to your ego. There is no rationality in turning this down. Okay, well, do as you wish. We'll move on. And the users who know about us will probably use us anyways to buy your token. And best of luck with your decision making.
Right.
That's the only thing I could think of here.
So these NFTs that you guys have, I mean, it is something that people are going to want to hear about. We have to talk about it. It is the reward structure. It is how they can earn money through you guys. How, you said it's a 3x on their money. Is there a speed by which that's going to happen? Is it a set amount that they're going to get every month? How exactly are they going to be getting these rewards?
So, okay. So the link to buy the elements is here, which I've just posted it in stage questions.
Right.
Please, everybody listening, go and buy elements. Now, this is very simple. You can pick one of 4 elements. You buy it. The most expensive one is $50.
Mm-hmm.
And I will talk about that feature later. Let me just talk about the elements first. If you are spending $50, we will continue to send you fees. Actually, let me simplify it even more. You will continue to receive rewards until you have made $150.
Mm-hmm.
So you've 3x'd. Now there's another layer. You can, because we're a cross-chain project, we couldn't decide which chain are we going to pay people on, which token. Well, we're a cross-chain project, right? So let people pick what they want. So what will happen is at the end of each month, you will see the dollar value of what we've made, how much we're able to allocate back to the rewards. Let's say you're entitled to $10, yes, at the end of the month. Well, it's your choice. Do you want it on Binance? Do you want it on Polygon? Do you want it on whatever chain you support? Okay, go ahead and choose that token. You can even choose a non-stable coin token if you want. And that's how it will be delivered.
That's a nice approach, and I like that, and I think a lot of people are going to appreciate that. One of the things that I'm picking up on, and I wonder whether or not this was deliberate, is that just by virtue of the fact that people can potentially buy themselves a quicker ROI and then profit based on the fact that they can try and drive as much traffic as they can through you guys. Is that part of the design here, that everything is built towards making sure that people are always having you at the tip of their tongue and talking about your protocol?
When we were dealing with the token, I found it hard to circle back to the software. That was the issue I was telling you about before.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. So by making this strictly about the software, there is more incentive for everybody to push for others to use this, right? Because that if I've invested in this and all I need to do is get people to use it as a tool. And here's the beauty of it, right? This is a very different conversation. I could talk to 100 people and try to convince them to invest their money, and investment is always risky.
Mm-hmm.
And I might convince 10 people to do so. But if I the same 100 people, if I argue, here are all the reasons why you should make use of this tool, I'll probably get more than 5 or 10 of them to use it, or at least to try it out. Right? Because it's not a risky endeavor to just use a tool that is built to be convenient. And so now I am able to focus on that side of the conversation a bit better than I was before. And this really was the goal. Making money in crypto as a project lead this way is the right way. I truly believe this. Making money by creating tokens where you have a large supply of it and then people are gambling their savings away and there is speculation on how much they will get is less appealing to us.
So what benefit is there going to be to having more than one element? They're all elements still, right? That part of the process hasn't gone. What are they going to get that's a benefit to that? Having all.
So the different elements. So different elements cost a different amount, right? The cheapest one is the fire one. It's $10, and the most expensive one is $50. It makes no difference which one you get if you're not going to buy a whole set. But if you buy a set, which would set you back $100 for all four, then you get what we've always called the fifth element. Now, that element is going to be significant when we launch additional features to the swap, which internally we're already testing. They're not so much related to cross-chain or same-chain. It's more quality of life improvements, which people tend to enjoy in DeFi. I'm not going to go into what they are now. That will be for another AMA.
Okay.
But they will enjoy perks for those services. Also, the Launchpad, when that's ready, there's going to be perks to having that fifth element when we do that. Now, as for the Launchpad, there are multiple multi-chain Launchpads. And by multi-chain, I mean, if you want to launch a project on Polygon, you can create the Launchpad there and they support that, and you can collect money on Polygon. If you want to do it on Binance, you can still use the same software, the same website, and you can do that on Binance. But there is nobody that we know of where you can launch a project on one chain and collect money for the pre-sale from multiple chains. Nobody seems to have done that. It's not available.
Right.
On our pre-sale, we already show that we have this technology. And this is how our Launchpad is going to function too. If you want to launch a project on Avalanche and you don't want to make it difficult for people to buy in, well, people will be able to buy in using any token on any of the chains we support. And you, as the project owner, will receive your funds on Avalanche. So we take care of all that complexity. And this is what we mean by having a dApp that makes it easier for people to navigate in crypto without dealing with the annoyances of having to swap and bridge tokens and then go to another dApp to buy this other token and whatnot. So yeah, now to grow that side of things, as you will well know, we're starting a Telegram channel, right?
Yes.
Which you might have heard of, and you know,
No, what's it called?
Yeah, the DeFi Oracle.
Okay.
Right, you might have heard of that. I happen to be working with a particular group of people who have a Discord space that helps educate people on crypto related, stuff like that. I think our success will come from the collaborations and partnerships that, thanks to what we're doing, is not hard for us to get, right? People are happy to work with us. And it's because of what we're doing, right? It would be a lot harder if we were doing some bullshit, I don't know, metaverse game, which is never going to materialize. Here, we have a swap that is built. It's not perfectly ready yet, but it's built. It's out in a week. Software is there. You can see that there is a revenue stream or a possibility for revenue to be generated that is not just funneling people's money through taxes.
Right. I was going to get onto that because you have very strong ideas in terms of where revenue should come from, right? And you're not
Yes.
wrong in a lot of what you're saying, and it's difficult to give you much pushback. But for the sake of the audience, I mean, feel free to give it double barrels. But what are your thoughts in terms of revenue stream and perhaps these protocols that are taking taxes and tax people heavily, and why is it that you've gone down this particular road?
So, not to throw anyone under the bus, initially when we did intend to launch a token, I put taxes because I wanted to slow down the downfall of the token long enough for us to be able to put the revenue back into the token liquidity, right?
Right.
There is too much of a gambling element in this. And it's not to dismiss it, but that's not the way we want to go. Because as I said, I only want people to focus on the software. I want people to support the software. I want people to help us spread word about the software. Yes, you can tell people, hey man, go and buy yourself an element. You'll make 3x eventually, right? Because we don't know how long it would take. Maybe it would take 6 months. Maybe it would take a year. However long that takes, it is easier for somebody to say, here is the revenue stream. This is just like PancakeSwap or just like OpenSea. It's a software where fees are coming in because they're providing a service. And the difference here is, since the last bull run, I have witnessed multiple projects, 30,000, 50,000 people in their Discord, huge treasuries, and either they launch a new token or they update their protocol.
Right.
But pushing the token price back up once it's collapsed is, and by the way, what a waste of money, because that is not what revenue is. Revenue in the real world is money that you generate, that you get from people paying you after you have offered them a service or a product. It's normal. Everybody knows this. We seem to have forgotten about this in crypto. Taxing transactions is not revenue. That is money that is being sent to the protocol. I can only assume that people have this expectation that that money should be used to then create revenue streams. But that money in itself is not revenue. And again, it's going to be interesting when we have the poker game very soon, where if this topic comes up, because maybe other project leads will have different opinions, right? And
just FYI for anybody listening, if anybody's kind of confused in terms of where the conversation's being directed, go and have a look at the lineup of people that are going to be joining us for the Pillars Poker Party, which is at the end of the month.
Right. I mean, again, I'm not pointing a gun at anyone, but bear in mind, to any of you who are listening and you've never heard me before, or you might not know of my relationship with the Mad Hatter, we have a YouTube channel, and we interviewed so many people who are significant in this space, influencers, other project leads, community managers, and we've had a lot of these discussions where the significance of what the project was as a business was not always the focus of the message that people were talking about during the bull run. And then people were surprised that they lost money. So to address that, we simplified the reward model that we have so that it's easy to understand and that we could better focus on what we're actually doing here, which is the swap.
Right.
The swap is an aggregator like most swaps, right? Somebody just asked that question.
Yeah.
I don't know what that means.
I mean, I don't understand. You're going to have to rephrase that randomly for us. Yeah, please elaborate on that. Okay, so again, because obviously...
Let me respond with a no.
Okay, yeah.
There we go. No, he can choose to elaborate what he meant.
If you guys are ever going to be in a position, because you are obviously giving rewards back, and you guys are perhaps in a position to have a set of funds that are earmarked towards the community, you're meant to be giving money back. How are you going to manage those funds? How do you think you'll better manage the position than a lot of these protocols that you're talking about?
Because those funds are they're not funds that we take from you as an investor and then give them to the next investor.
Right.
The funds that we're talking about that are paid out are from the fees that we collect from our swap, from our launchpad, from RPC nodes that we'll be getting. This is money that is coming from just providing a service, a product, right? And so depending on how much we make any given month, and initially I expect it will be slow, and then eventually it will grow, right? Because that's how it is. Well, we will see what we've collected. We will see how many people we have bought elements, and we will distribute a relative amount based on what type of element they have. Obviously, if you've bought an air element, which is $50, you get more, but it will be the same percentage of the initial amount you invested for everyone every month. So that's just, we're not looking to be a mutual fund here. There are projects that function like mutual funds where they will take your money and invest it in other shit. In our case, that money is used to provide liquidity on multiple chains so that we get even more profit on the fees that we collect, because now we're not necessarily dependent on a third-party bridge.
Right. Understood. And if all else fails, if you guys don't get to work with a protocol, they have hard-headed people sitting at the top that don't listen, they eventually start to collapse, or maybe somebody rugs somewhere, something happens, it's abandoned, or they're just failing and people see that they might need a way out. Is there something else that you guys are doing then to support those community members from those? Right, perfect. Okay. Talk to me about that.
Transmutation is not to be mistaken with another service that we have, which is called Regen, which is, I hate to say this, similar-ish to what MDB does, which is called Gravity. Transmutation is a personal approach. So you as an individual can choose to exit a project. And if we've opened the option of transmutation, what we will do is we will add a bonus, a perk. So like if you move $100, we might give you $110 in credit so you can buy an extra element, so you can, just as an exit strategy for you if the project is collapsing.
Right.
We don't plan to weaponize this, but who knows? So just to read Random Ape's question, a DEX aggregator, which means the swap pools other swaps and routes which means the swap pools other swaps and routes the transaction to get the best price, as opposed to having your own liquidity pool and only allowing transactions through your own pool. You've just described what an aggregator is. Yes, we have that. The distinction is that Moss wants to jump in. The distinction is, and Moss will elaborate better, but for the people listening, we don't just use those common aggregation tools. We also query DEXs directly, which other aggregators don't tend to do. As I explained before, because they might not be very big players, they might not be very significant, they might not see the point in it. On top of that, we add the cross-chain functionality, right? So as I showed before, Random Ape, it's not just about cross-chain swaps with us or same-chain swaps. We are a convenient place to be, whatever you want to do, whatever you want to swap with. Except for Phantom, because Phantom shat itself, by the way, and all bridges have turned off support for it, but hopefully it will come back at some point.
I guess one of the questions I need to level at you is, how do you believe, because it's so fresh, the current climate now with the SEC, with Binance, with the general look at crypto might affect you guys, in terms of your outlook on where things are headed? Are you bleak? Are you positive? Do you kind of sit in the middle and think nothing really is going to change? And how do you assure the people that you're looking to invest in you that, you guys aren't going to kind of become despondent if the fight gets harder against the authorities?
By removing the token aspect of the project, we've immediately made it easier for ourselves somewhere down the line when potentially tokens get regulated, right? So we're already removing ourselves from that fight. Now,
Right.
the argument can be made that, hey, NFTs are an investment and you're promising X amount of reward. Fair enough. I have said this from the beginning. When people ask about being audited or being KYC'd or any of that nonsense, I have always said, where it's relevant, we will do this stuff. But the only significant thing that anyone can do in this space to legitimize themselves is to register as a company. And so, as a company, there are many jurisdictions. I don't know why people think America is the only place where crypto exists. There are many jurisdictions where crypto is regulated, and there's a framework to operate, and that's what we'll do.
Right.
It's very simple. So whatever happens in the US with the SEC, they will probably create a framework that people should abide by, and we will just do that. If it's not abusive, right? Like if they're not trying to kill crypto. If they are, the rest of the world is still crypto positive for now.
Right. Good. I mean, that's a good answer. And I suppose what you're essentially saying is you're not even seeing it at this current climate as an issue that's going to affect you per se. You know, you're just going to do what you need to do to stand strong against, as you say, just America. You know, the rest of the world for the most part is crypto positive. So I don't think it's, you know, when one person might kind of drop the ball in terms of trying to be too forceful, I think someone else is going to pick it up. So I'm not too worried. But it's also good to hear that you're not coming from a place of worry.
No.
Is there ever going to be a position whereby people can boost their returns? Not the amount, not the speed by which it happens, but the amount of time they're in. If somebody really likes you guys and they want to keep earning, are they going to be able to do that? Are there things that you guys are thinking about that might allow people sometime down the line to put more money in with you guys?
So for now, this element exercise is for us to start off the liquidity pools on the different chains.
Right.
Eventually, there's going to be yield farming, right? And which means you will just directly be able to put liquidity on any chain you want, and you can pull it out whenever you want. But obviously, the rewards will be smaller. They won't be 3x, right? It will be a very small percentage.
Right.
Right. But yes, to answer your question, people will still be able to make money, but the highest amount of money you'll be able to make is only ever going to be directly with buying the elements.
Right. Okay. So not only are they a reasonable entry point at this point in time, but you know, with that being the case, the elements are something, especially if people are interested in NFTs and earning through NFTs, are something people should be picking up, I suppose, because they have a shelf life and may never come back again through you guys.
In fact, so we're only releasing 10,000 of each, right?
Right.
We have promised that we will never mint more than 10,000, but we do reserve the right to cut the supply short if, let's say, we're not selling as many let's say we haven't sold all of them out before we've reached the point where the swap is making more money than whatever is left in the sale of elements. Well, what's the point? I would rather just stop selling elements, reward the people who invested in us early faster, and just carry on, right? Because we don't want to be that type of project that can only survive by people continuously pumping money into it through some investment scheme, right? This is just to get us started. And once we're going, right? We're good.
Right. So far, how have your community been? Because one of the key things you have to do as a protocol is manage your community a certain way. And I know you have some staunch defenders and staunch, people that really support your protocol. some lovely people that also jump into this space and also, come and say hello to us. But for the most part, how have your community reacted to you guys kind of pumping the brakes a little bit, saying to yourselves, we might not be doing the best thing we can here. We may have to go in a different direction for the betterment of you, the investor. Please be patient with us. Have you found for the most part they've been patient?
What a great community we have. We have not had any toxicity whatsoever in our Discord.
Right.
We have had people questioning, like, what are you doing? What are you working on at the moment? What are the timelines? And even when we announced internally that we're changing the reward model, first of all, before, the reward model didn't guarantee that you would make 3 times the amount. It gave there was a time limit that for 18 months you will receive rewards. We hope that we will 3x, but whether we do or don't, that's the cutoff time. Now we've switched it over where we said you will get 3x. We just don't know how long it would take. Maybe it would take less time, maybe it would take more. And there was some concern in the team before I posted this that some people would be upset. Not a single person had anything negative to say about it. In fact, people were excited. And everyone agreed it's much simpler to explain. And no, we've had a great community, very patient people. And I think the way we presented ourselves initially, with the fact that this is a software project, not a pump and dump. This isn't about the token. The token was just a vehicle for the rewards, for the revenue stream. They understand that development-wise, nothing has changed. The original reason for buying into this remains the same. You are buying into something that is going to generate revenue, and that revenue is going to be shared with you. Right. Now we've just cleaned up the message.
Which is great, because by cleaning up the message, it puts you also in a stronger position to be able to sit in front of people and talk about it, right? As we discussed at the top of the Q&A, being able to explain this in a precise and simple manner is key to getting people to understand you as quickly as possible, and therefore start using you as quickly as possible. So, for those that do want to pick up one of your NFTs, the real key here is that as you're working to, I'm sure be even more simple or simplistic in your explanation as you go down the line, that's only ever going to draw positives towards people using you guys, and therefore they will be generating the rewards that they want.
Exactly. And there is so much more utility coming, right? But we need to start somewhere. We don't have a massive team, so step by step. But the moment this goes live, this will be immediately useful to people who are buying stuff, selling stuff. I do want to get the on-ramp facility on as quickly as possible. I'm hoping we'll have it ready at launch, but maybe it will take a couple of weeks. We'll see. But as far as onboarding onto crypto with fiat and then navigating on the different chains we support, that should be very easy.
Right.
And that's the point, right? If you are making this easier for people to be here, more people will join. And
yes, I agree.
I think David from Switch, you and I have had a lot of conversations with him. He raised a very valuable point that I took to heart. Somebody needs to do well in crypto, in DeFi. We need somebody to win, to do something good where people don't lose their money, where it's an overall positive message to bring about the next bull run, right? So that more people jump in, so that new users adopt what we're doing here. And I'm hoping we can play a part in that.
You mean, Pepe Token wasn't that guy?
Sadly. You say that, it might have brought in a few people who weren't into crypto. Right. I don't know if it's gone to hell already, but for sure the news around it and the profits that some people made will have incentivized more than a few people to try out this crypto thing.
Mm-hmm. One of the things I noticed in the last explanation that you gave is that you mentioned deadlines. One of the things I suppose some people in your community might want to ask, but might be a bit too afraid to, because it's a very direct question. But will you clean up perhaps the the pattern by which you build out and start putting in really cemented deadlines in terms of launch. I mean, I'm a stickler for a deadline myself. I like to be able to see when something is coming and know that that's a deadline that will be met. Is that something that you kind of have in mind, and something that you guys are working towards as a team, so that you can really simplify that communication and just say, this is when this happens, this is when that happens. You can expect this by this date and that by that date.
Yes. And first of all, we have some pretty awesome community members, right? First of all, I have been asked that question before.
Okay.
What I've done with our community is I've made myself available for one-to-one voice chats with people who have concerns or questions. I don't just answer in public chat. I will say, "Hey, man, open a ticket," and then usually I'll get on a phone call, and then we'll talk more about where we're headed. Stuff that I don't want to say publicly, I will tell them to reassure them and just to let them know there is a plan beyond just what we've said. But this one guy pointed out early on, maybe you should stop saying next week or this week if it's not 100% going to happen. Now, I always keep myself covered by saying we hope to do so by next week or whatever, but that wasn't sufficient. So what we've done now is this, which is why the swap isn't live now, where it could have been live 2 months ago. If we had launched 2 months ago, the cross-chain stuff would have worked, but the same chain stuff that I showed you where we have better pricing wouldn't have been ready. So now what we did is we built out a bunch of things. We won't release all of them. So we always have a bit of a backlog of stuff that we can release so that there is progression while we're working on the newer things, right? Same thing with the chains. We have, I think it was 8 or 9 chains that we support internally. We will not start with that when we're live. We will start with 5 or 6, and then we'll just add a few once in a while. And of course, these are ready. So when I give a date, it's accurate because the work is already done.
Right. I think that's a smart approach. I do think having dates is important. You know, we've seen all too many times with a lot of protocols that dates get missed, or somebody does continue to say next week or next month, and that date never comes and it keeps getting pushed back. And as patient as people might be, eventually that starts to breed resentment, right? And that can spread very quickly. So if you guys are actively working towards mitigating against that by being able to deliver dates and on the date that you say you're going to, I think there's going to be a real strength to that.
This is common in all software development, by the way, not just in crypto where dates get missed. But I think, like I said, we've had no toxicity, and the complexity of what we're doing is understood by the people who invested, right? So it's not, we're not making tic-tac-toe, right? This is very difficult stuff. This is top-notch. As far as crypto is concerned, it does not get much harder than this. So I think people understand this.
In terms of your team, because you talk very openly about how complex it is, and you're obviously very complimentary of people like Moss and some of the other team members that you have, and I see a couple of them in here now. Is there ever going to be a point where you're all on stage and you guys will all take the time to talk to the community? Do you see strength in that? You know, I'm sure someone like Moss would love to get up and say a few words at some point. You know, or Kim K, for example. Yes, I'd like to hear what the girls sound like. You know, but do you see strength in eventually introducing the team and saying, you know, guys, this is the human being behind what was created, and we just want you to be able to speak to them to create that extra layer of confidence in you?
We have done that, and privately within the Discord, they do interact with members directly. It's just that for these types of situations, we have done AMAs together, right? Moss and Falco have been on stage before, but in the end, and here's the thing, right? If you talk to either Falco or Moss, either of the devs, you will get caught up in a highly technical discussion,
Right.
which is interesting if you care about the technicalities, and nobody can talk about this stuff better than them. But most people are sure they're interested in what the swap does and what the advantages are, but it's more from a what can this do for me, as opposed to an what's it called, an academic discussion on why we did things in one way or not the other. Just
Right.
me trying to explain why we have chosen to not bypass the security feature of what is it, the block verifications. I didn't explain this in a very technically accurate manner, but people understand what I'm talking about because I'm communicating that in a way that relates to how this benefits you as a user.
Right.
If the devs come on, they'll talk about hash rates and all that nonsense. Nobody's going to understand them. And
I understand.
You wouldn't have 200 people in an audience if that's the type of conversation we're having.
Sure. I mean, it's always worth asking, right? I guess there's perhaps special occasions, Christmas, Easter, New Year's, times that you'll allow Moss to come out of that basement and perhaps jump on stage to say a word.
When he's ready. When he's ready. For now,
Right.
we sent him food.
I mean, he is currently claiming he has a very sexy voice. So if you're going to make those bold claims, you're going to have to prove it, right? I suppose at some point.
He has a voice that sounds similar to mine.
Okay.
And but he sounds whatever. His accent is different. No, he's a very clever guy. And I've said this before. When you find someone who takes their craft not just as work but as a hobby, well, then you're going to get amazing work from them, right? Because this is their passion. It's not just their source of income.
Right. Yes, I agree. Throughout this process of building, what do you think has been your greatest strength?
Building what? The swap, the community, the project?
Throughout the process of building in a new building upon what you already had, but in a new format since the first conception of the Alchemy Protocol.
The biggest strength is always going to be the persistence, I think.
Mm-hmm.
There is no such thing as failure. You can make plans, but sometimes the plans or the destination you're aiming for might not be reachable in the way that you defined originally. But I think everybody, and I think this is why we haven't had any drama in our Discord, is that people see that from the moment we started till today, we are still persistent with our efforts. We're still around. We haven't disappeared. We're still making progress, right? And that's really what winners do, right?
Right.
Winners don't always win on their first attempt or when they first get started. It's them not giving up, them not stopping, not letting any obstacle get in their way. That's how winners are made, and our community sees that in us, hopefully. And I think that's going to be always our biggest strength.
Okay.
Persistence.
Persistence, determination. Good. In terms of weakness, what has been throughout this process maybe your biggest learning curve? So I'll take weakness off the table, but what have you learned from the most, and where do you feel you needed to improve and have improved?
Look, one of the biggest challenges, and sadly, I have not been able to address this to any of our satisfaction. We wish we had more devs we could work with, right? Because obviously development would go faster. You will find no end of devs that know how to fork Uniswap and copy it and reskin it or make some basic contract. But to do what we are doing, the caliber of developer that you need is, and especially because we're a small team, right? We can't afford to have many devs who lack some stuff and then you compensate by having volume. Mm-hmm. That is a struggle that has been plaguing us from the beginning, and it still does now. where we're unable to find devs that are available, that have the skill set to help push this faster. So that is a problem. I did get lucky with the team that I found. We have 2 girls who are mods, and they're excellent. They have a lot of empathy when it comes to people asking questions, and I mean, it's not always related to us, but people come to us for questions related to crypto in general, right? Oh, my wallet is having this issue and that issue, and they're always nice enough to help, even when it's not related to us.
Right.
So that's lucky. But
Smiley
yeah,
and Kim K, right?
yes, but
Yeah.
yes, that's been the main issue, which we've not overcome, which is finding more devs to help push this along faster. That's a
Right.
weakness for sure.
And in terms of being able to expand the team, do you guys have, or do you have a set time frame in mind by which you might want to start beginning expanding the team? Do you know when you're going to start to try and bring new people in that regard, in terms of the technical side of things, and not necessarily the front facing side of things?
I do, but that is more related to our technical ambitions, right? At the moment, okay, we are making use of several services that are available to people in crypto when developing. At some point, we would like to provide those services ourselves.
Right.
When that happens, we would definitely have to hire people who have some expertise in that area. And I'm talking here about very high level stuff related to the blockchain and storing information. We'd need somebody who knows how to work with servers and set them up and that kind of stuff. So it's more
Right.
about, the more ambitious we get, the more the need for specialized skill sets will become necessary.
Okay. We've discussed a lot. There's been a lot of information. I'm going to see if anybody wants to throw their hand in the air and just jump up on stage and maybe have a quick conversation with you, ask you a question if you're okay with that.
Always.
While I do wait for someone to put their hand up, and I'm sure somebody will. So, guys, if you do want to come up and ask a question, you can put your hand up now. Do you want to circle back just once more to really what it is that was underpinning what you guys were building out last time, that you've now been able to fine tune in really only a few sentences in terms of what it is that you guys are doing?
So what we were building has never changed. The only difference from when we first started to now is that we were going to have a token which was going to be used as a vehicle to pass on the revenue that we generated.
Mm-hmm.
And it was complicated. There was a system to keep the price in check, and there were taxes, and you had to claim and whatnot. All you need to do now to participate, to make your 3x, is to go to that page, you buy the NFT, whatever money you spend, we will continue to share the revenue that we generate with you until you make 3 times the dollar value of the amount that you've spent on those NFTs. Very simple.
And as we discussed at the top, people can go and look back through the stage questions and look at those images. What you guys are able to offer, and the fact that you are able to offer better prices than even going direct, I think is phenomenal. And provided when it goes live, it works as it should. I think it's a very strong position to be in. And of course, that word of mouth organic growth will move very, very quickly as and when people pick up on this and realize, they are really getting more for their money.
Let me I'm afraid of when I say we will continue to send money until you 3x.
Mm-hmm.
I do want to qualify this, right? Because some people might hear this and say, oh, how can they promise this? It's not legit.
Right.
We have shown, if nothing else, that we're very persistent, right? We've been at this for over a year just to build this thing. You can expect that continued persistence until we deliver on our promise. No, it's fine, arch enemy. I appreciate that you brought this up. We will continue until we've delivered on this promise. Is this going to happen overnight? Are you going to make 3x overnight? No. Are you going to get the same percentage return every month? Probably not. We want people to come in with open eyes. Whenever you start something like this, it's the curve of revenue starts off slow, and then it usually spikes up at some point once you reach critical mass, and then it's all good. We do want people to come in understanding that, right? We will continue to build. The revenue will continue to grow. It will start off slow, and that's just how it works. We cannot define how long it will take to get you that 3x, but the promise, which will not change, is that we will continue to share this revenue with you until you've made 3x. And it's still, sure, guaranteed 3x. It's still the same thing, but I do want people to come in knowing what they're getting into, because it's important. We put in a lot of effort when we did the private sale to explain this to people, and that is why nobody is anxious or whatever about us taking so long to push out the swap, because they understand what we're doing. So now, again, there's about 200 people listening. I do invite you to go in and participate, get some elements, but do so understanding that, you know, you're not going to get half of your money back in a month. That's unlikely to happen.
Right, of course. It's sensible returns. One of the things I'll push on a little bit, and I'm sure some people are thinking it, is, you know, somebody might be sitting at home listening to this thinking, well, you know, it's all well and good saying you'll persist, but you could persist at paying me 10 cents every month for the rest of my life.
Sure.
You know, so by being so careful in terms of, you know, not wanting to fully commit to a time frame, I understand. But what will your pushback be to those people that say, well, you know, we of course we're prepared to wait and we understand it's slow, steady gains, but at the same time, are there some forms of confidence that you can give that, you know, these rewards will happen within a reasonable time frame?
I mean, this type of stuff is fluid, right? Obviously, we're not going to hold people hostage. Now, here's a very critical thing to remember. Most of the money that is spent on elements is going to be held in liquidity pools on different bridges. That money isn't going to be spent, right? If we get to a point where, let's say we've been at this for a year, the swap is live, it's not taking off, I'm sure we'll make some fees, but maybe it's not getting us to the point where we're giving really great returns. It's perfectly reasonable for us to say, okay, we never wasted your money. It's still there. It's just waiting on some liquidity pool. Okay, we can start giving people the option to take back their initial, right? And off you go. And then we can decide then and there how well or how badly we're doing, and decide whether we're just going to send people off with their original investment, with whatever extra that they've made in that time, or if we keep going. But this is important. This is the majority of the funds here are not consumed in risky investments or to pay off whatever. It's just there on, let's say, on Polygon, for example, so that when somebody wants to swap, we have that liquidity available, so we don't need to use another bridge. And what that does is it helps us collect more fees than if we were using a third party, right? So there's that element of safety there, which may or may not be available in other similar projects. But I guess this is the same as when you provide liquidity to a bridge, right? You can pull out whenever you want. The only difference is with us, you're not pulling out whenever you want because the return is 3x. But if, as you said, things were to go terribly wrong, okay, the money's still there. So we're not unreasonable, right? If this isn't taking off, okay, we don't want to be stuck to it too. If something has changed in crypto where this is no longer viable, we'll make the right choice, and we'll make sure that as much as we can, we'll make things right with everybody. Because
Okay.
this is the thing, right? It's okay to fail as long as you fail in the right way, so that you can have another chance, right? But if you fail in the wrong way and you're holding people hostage and you're not doing what's right, well, then that's it. People aren't going to trust you again, and that is more valuable than holding on to some money to just keep beating a dead horse.
Yes, I agree. And I think it's always good to look at this from the perspective of, if something were to go wrong, we still want to be able to come back into this space and work.
Yes.
And we can't do that if we burn the bridge we're standing on.
I should point out, the arena that we're playing in is not very busy. Most bridges, the type of money they're handling is in the hundreds of millions. If all we do is 1% as well as any of these guys did, everyone's going to be very, very happy with us. And we're going to be happy with ourselves. So, we're aiming high, but we don't even need come close to matching what the big players are doing in this particular niche to do very well. So it's, again, we're not proposing to make a game to compete with the thousands of games that are out there already, and we're new players. There aren't many players in this space, and because it's difficult to participate. And there is still a lot of room for improvement, as I've shown with some of the features that we have within this niche that we can use to leverage to our advantage.
Well, I mean, I look forward to seeing what comes of it. It's been a long road, right? And as you've already said, and as the audience now knows, you and I speak plenty privately, so
Yes.
I hear how much work is going into what you guys are doing. And that doesn't mean I don't have critical questions. Of course I do, and I hope I've asked some of the ones that people want to hear during this conversation. But I also I get to hear the other side and the human side of how much work is going in. And I do know that you guys are really wanting to do this the right way, and it's why you've taken the time to do what you're doing. Now it's just a case of you have to at some point bite the bullet and show everyone that it's done, and really lead by example and prove by showing people that it works, right? By releasing it to the masses and allowing them to use it.
Looking forward to that. So far, we've showcased this to a few people, and the only feedback we get is "wow" or "this is really cool." That's nice. That feels good. But to improve, we're hoping to get some more substantial feedback.
Right.
As far as, I wish it did this or that. Because when people tell you what they want, you can, as a product, you can get an edge on your competitors by inviting people to tell you what features they want, what would be nice. There is one killer feature which I can't wait to showcase. It really has nothing to do with cross-chain or even same-chain swaps, but it's very cool, and we will post about it. It's so simple and so basic, but nobody has done it yet.
Right.
And it's these little things that I think will help us stand out. And we got the idea because it's something that we would have liked for ourselves personally. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
And okay, we added it, and I think people will enjoy it too. Because again, I guess we'll talk again in a few months once it's been live, and we can
and then we can really dissect it, right? And then we'll really get into the nitty gritty. I look forward to that day. I look forward to seeing it launch, seeing you guys launch, and seeing it finally up and running. We're going to start running the giveaway competition now. There's going to be some criterias. Obviously, people have to be in your Discord, so we're going to throw the link in now.
Nice.
I know David likes to get in there before me, so I'm sure he's already posted it. But I will grab the link up now. I'm also going to stipulate that you have to have at least jumped into the Discord and said hello to every person in the team. So feel free to ping Shak as often as you wish.
Great.
Moss as well. Smiley and Kim
Jesus
K.
Christ.
And say hello to them in the Discord. And of course, you've got to be following our social media. So if anybody wants to head to the announcements channel, you'll see our social media links in there. Give those a follow as well, and then just open a ticket if you've won. Do you want to explain a little bit about what the giveaway is and the format by which you imagine that we'd be doing it? Because I think this is quite exciting for people.
I'm sorry, say that again.
Do you want to give a quick idea on how we're going to be doing the giveaway and why you imagined it in this format?
You mean the elements?
Yes, correct. Yeah.
Right.
So we're giving them away as bundles, right? It's not just a single element.
I'll explain.
Yes, please do.
So the cost price of 4 elements, one of each type, would be $100. Unless you buy them all together, we're running a bit of a discount now. You would get them for $95. Anyways, you can see it on the swap. But we figured if we give these, if we give 5 sets of elements, what that technically means is, yes, they cost $100, but by the time the rewards are done, everyone who has them will end up getting $300 worth of stablecoin, however long that will take. And again, this would keep people with us, right? Because typically when you give away a token in a giveaway, people take it, they sell it, they're off, right? They don't care about what you're doing. In this way, people are encouraged to stick around, and hopefully we'll get some fans and people talking about us once they get to see what we're actually doing.
And of course, you have to have all 4 elements to be able to get the 5th.
Correct.
Right. And there'll be some exciting things down the line once that's released. Shak, it's always a pleasure talking to you. I always find it interesting to hear you talk about your project. I really am looking forward to this launching. I think
thank you for having us.
Pleasure. People hopefully are going to jump into the Discord, start snooping around and asking questions. And I look forward to doing this again in a couple of months.
Legend. I'll step off the stage. Thank you for having us. Thank you everyone for coming. And we'll be posting links in our Discord soon.
All right, dude. You take care.
Take care, man. Bye-bye.